This is iRacing.
Well, after last week, the championship standings don't show it, but you might want to say it's a bit of a passing of the torch after Jacob Reed schooled Valenteus on the championship. But the halfway stage, and we return to a classic. And when I say a classic, last time they were here for about 5 hours. It's only an hour today as the IMSA Vintage Round 6 hits Road America live here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Hello, everybody. I am Craig King. Joining me in the booth is Joey Atterbury with Daniel Costello in the director's chair using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Well, if you don't know Road America, where have you been for the last 30 years? But, of course, Joe Peak will let you know everything you need to do right now with the GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Road America. Nicknamed America's National Park of Speed, it's easy to see why just by looking at how the track is laid out. Long straights are a major feature, and drivers will build up incredible momentum before they find themselves interrupted by tight 90-degree corners. In fact, for a 4-mile circuit, it has shockingly few turns. It also has little in the way of variation in layouts. The main course is only broken up once with a single chicane added in the bend version. But don't take this to mean that it's a boring track. Elevation change happens many times over a lap, with a few places taking you into corners which are quite blind. But two of the turns on the back half of the course are perhaps the most distinctive. One is the carousel with its more than 180-degree radius. It just feels like it never stops. The other is the kink. Terrifyingly fast with very little runoff, it can end someone's race in a flash. As you'd expect, the heavy braking zones make for some ideal overtaking spots. Turn 5 sees plenty with its downhill entry. The hurried downs can offer drivers a chance at a sneak attack if you're brave, and then Canada Corner gives you one last shot before the lap is over. It's no wonder major organizations such as IMSA, IndyCar, NASCAR, and the SCCA all host major races here. All in all, many drivers rate this track as the best track in North America. Many who hop in the seat and try it can quickly understand why.
Well, last time I was here, there was some fantastic driving, but Joey, there's always fantastic driving here at Road America. I think you may have driven it a few times.
Not only fantastic driving, but some of the best track food in the country as well. Welcome to Wisconsin. 14 turns, just a tick under, actually just over 4 miles in length out there. And trust me, this is extremely fast. It has got a ton of elevation. Turn number 5, big time brake zone, so watch out for some good passing opportunities going down into there. Turn number 10, the carousel, big time downhill, extremely long right-hander, and it feeds you into one of the fastest corners in all of motorsports, the kink. And then, of course, turn number 12, Canada Corner, your next best passing opportunity. And trust me, folks, with the 60-minute race today, you better have enough fuel in this car, because from Canada Corner, it is all uphill to the start-finish line.
Yeah, might be looking to get some pushes, but there'll be a lot of slipstreaming in the GTOs. But for the GTPs, be a standard race for them today. And let's go over those championship standings, because, as I did mention, it was kind of an interesting progression here, because Jacob Reed is just 7 points behind Valenteus, and that gap has been closing the last few weeks with constant wins there for Reed. Christopher Lesniak was there battling as well, but he's had to resign into third and at the bottom for the rest of the places, and it does feel like the best of the rest at the moment. Pepe Fuentes leading, Gabri Martinez and Jack Wells just behind. Shout out to David Ricciardi as well, one of those GTP light drivers who's still there in the top 10. Henning Swebek rounds out your top 10 with Fabian Youngblood just ahead of him. The GTOs, though, Joey, it's kind of a similar story with the usual suspects.
Yeah, like we said, we do have that multi-class out there. So you ran through the GTPs. These are the GTOs, the Audis. Right now it is Van Hicks, a narrow 6 points ahead of Noel Lundberg. And then look at how tight it is for that battle for third place. Only a single point separating Mickey Friesen, who's in third, with Yanni Hagner, who's back here in fourth. Josh Brain tied, a 3-way tied for 5th place with Andreas Schuster and Doug Cloud. Ian Haycock sitting here in 8th place. Codesalo in 9th, and Skovgaard rounding out our extremely close top 10.
always close when you look at the GTO standings. It's going to be close on the track today because, as we said, it's 60 minutes today, so a lot of fuel saving for those GTOs. So that'll be interesting for round 6 today. It is an open setup. Build a setup, bring it, use a community setup, but once you're done, you crash it, you're done for the day. There is no spare car. The drive-through will be at 17 incident point. Additional penalties, actually disqualification today at 25. And Joey, we don't talk a lot about it, but there is a lot of opportunity to overshoot the exit of corners around here. So that could be a little bit interesting with 17 incident points.
You're right. Typically, we don't have to worry about those incident points, especially in a 40-minute race. But Road America, it's got a ton of gravel. It's got a ton of grass. And remember, this is multi-class racing, so it's not odd to have kind of the unusual incident every now and then. So 25 incident points, you definitely kind of call it manage it, right? And if you're a little bit scrappy in the beginning of the race, it might lead to some troubles later on.
Yeah, and that's big troubles that we may see later in the race. Qualifying is going on, and the GTPs, some of them have done their first lap in. Henning Swebeg, that's not a name we see usually at the top, but has been throwing his weight around recently. Currently pole position, but the big names have not gone out yet. So it's going to be interesting to see the GTOs. As there we see one of the GTOs just coming around to finish their first laps, and you can tell that's Noah Lundberg with the black and yellow, who a black and yellow team. Pittsburgh, they'll be playing a Milwaukee team in Green Bay later this season, but this is the danger point. Hard onto the brakes, into Canada corner, and with the downshifting, you've got to get that perfect.
Absolutely. I mentioned it's one of the big brake zones that these drivers have here at Road America, so not only do you have to get it right here in qualifying, but an excellent passing opportunity come race time. So right now in the GTO class, the carrot to chase is Hagner out front with a 204.68. We're about to see what Noel Lundberg here does in the number 5 car as they cross the start-finish line. Actually looks like that lap time is actually not going to count. Must have picked up an incident point somewhere. It was a 205.2, at least in terms of how fast it was. So it put them probably inside the top 5 as long as they can keep it clean.
Now here's the Worcester man, Jacob Reed, coming around the final corner at turn 14 to see what he can do. Interesting. We're probably looking at a high 44 today. We'll see what he can do. Valenteus not set a time. It's a 44.743, just ahead of Jack Wells there, and that's a really good time. And the question is, what does Valenteus have? But Jacob Reed actually made a mistake there. That's going to be one and done for him today. This is going to be interesting. This gives this man, Valenteus, 2 shots. Actually, no, it's going to be 1 shot. I don't think Valenteus will have time to do another lap.
Oh, and Valenteus loses it himself out of turn number 7. So the number 1 car is not going to be able to put that lap down in qualifying. And I mean, that's going to be it. He does not have enough time to go out there and actually complete a lap. The number 1 car is going to be starting from the back of the field.
Now, Valenteus loved doing the last to first, but with Jacob Reed at the front there, he can't afford a last to first today. He's going to have to do some poor, pure pace. Jack Wells a very wide turn 14. He's given up the lap. Well, I don't blame him. He needs to find 400th of a second. Could not find it. So not a bad decision to scrap that lap. Theo Charret goes pole position in the GTO, and Joni Hagner decides, excuse me 1 second, I would like that. So the question now is, where does Mickey Friesen go? He's going to come across the line. He can't do it. Doug Cloud goes up to P3.
And here comes Cal Young through the last set of corners here. I also have my eye on the number 5 car of Noel Lundberg. Remember, Noel wasn't able to put in that first lap time, and it's actually just in front of this car. He's going to be able to put down his lap at 204.9, so that's going to jump that number 5 car up into 4th place. Cal Young going to slot himself actually just in front. He snags away the 3rd place position. Nice job from the number 6.
Yeah, good job from the number 6 there. Ludlow Carpinchella is one of the last drivers in the GTOs, and it was a little bit wide there and probably forgets where the track is. It's a straight line there going up the hill, and we'll just take the off track there, and I'm just looking on board. Just one more GTP. Got a chance to make a move. Richard Heinman in 23rd position. going up there. Hamilton Barrera Reese, the last of the GTPs, able to set a lap time as well. 46 comes on by, but it will not be for anything. The time is done. And it is now time to get ready for a full formation lap. So we can take a nice, relaxed way through the standings. But I can tell you that Jacob Reed will be pole position today by quite a narrow margin out there to Jack Wells. You'll see it at the moment, 0.035. And then Christopher Leschak will be in third, with Henning Swevek in fourth, followed by Gabriel Martinez in fifth. Andrew Petty makes his return in sixth. Fernando Serrato will be in seventh. Fabio Dam will be eighth. Dylan Freckleton will be ninth. And David Ricciardi rounds out the top 10, which means we then get one of the veterans of the series in 11th, Laus Olsen. Brendan Lim will be beside him in 12th, and Carlos Peralta will take 13th. And then it's Hamilton Barrera Reese. We just saw him. He did not get a lap. He's starting in 14th. Balsto Burgermeister, will be in 15th. Milo Tachari will take 16th, with Andre Felipe Diaz in 17th. Dunya Dergamenci, apologies for the pronunciation there, in 18th. Jason Keddy will be 19th. Nico Alaratz will be the last at the time qualified, which leaves us 4 drivers not setting a time. The first of them is Andres Valenteas in a surprise, and it's Antonio Alvarez, Diego Mastretta, and Lance Simon in that order for 24 GTPs. Joey's got 24 GTOs for you.
Yeah, a little bit of a different shape, but equal amount of entries out there, and it is that number 3 car, Yoni Hagner, 204.25. That was your pole position. Theo Chalaret is going to be lined up alongside of him in second place. Cal Young starting from third, with Van Hicks over here in fourth. Noel Lundberg starting in fifth, with Doug Cloud in sixth. Mickey Friesen in seventh place, with Josh Brain in eighth. Timothy Reed starting in ninth, with Andreas Schuster rounding out the first top 10 of our GTO cars. And then over in 11th is the number 24 car of Ian Haycock's JDS, Jack David Spickett. The number 13 car is going to be lined up alongside Ian Haycock's there in 12th. Remco Snell is going to be lined up in 13th, with Martin Krejcik in 14th. Romain Bello in 15th, with Sam Skovgaard in 16th. Stefan Leslie there in 17th, with Henry Veramaki in 18th. Yuri Wickstrom back here in 19th, with Brandon White in 20th. And then, like you heard Craig say, a handful more back here. Looks like we've got Thorben Pollock in the number 34 car. That's starting in 21st. Aitor Sintez Galindo, that's going to be one to keep an eye on back here, starting in 22nd. Richard Heineman in 23rd. And Ludo Charpentier in 24th. That is 48 cars here at Road America.
And really, it's one of the biggest tracks where I think you've got to like having this many cars, because opens up a bit more fuel saving, a bit more traffic, and unfortunately also opens up that camel chaos that we used to say out here as the drivers already on the formation lap. Strength of field today, 3,027 for the GTPs, 3,214 for the Audi GTOs, and track temperature at the moment, 24 Celsius or 76 Fahrenheit if you're over the pond. The wind is interesting, though. It's quite blustery, about 15 kilometers an hour. Call that about 8 to 10 miles an hour. Northwest. Now, that's interesting, Joey, because that will almost be a headwind going up the start line, and then a tailwind as you come down here, down the moraine sweep into turn 5.
Yeah, and I think as a driver, maybe the first lap, maybe 2 laps, if the wind is really blowing out there. And I don't think it's going to affect the GTOs nearly as much as the GTPs per se, but I don't think it's going to be changing drastically too much. So I think maybe a lap, maybe 2 laps to get used to it. And then got to remember that these drivers were just out there and qualifying, so probably a little bit different, but relatively similar. But there's a good shot. Check out those trees breezing around.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's not like Willow Springs last week in the Lotus 79s, where we had winds of almost 50 kilometers an hour out there, which is 30-mile-an-hour winds, which is not really the wind you want to be standing in out there. And you can't imagine when you're driving out there is going to be very good as the drivers come around to some of these corners. And these are the corners that are going to be very interesting, because every corner is an overtaking corner if you try. But to be smart in these cars, you've got to wait for the opportunity. These slow corners, that first kink at turn 7. It's not officially called a kink, but that's a corner that you don't want to do it. You need to be patient down here through the carousel. And then this kink, the coming up, Joey, you know yourself, it's a no-no for overtaking.
Usually a giant no-no for overtaking. I will say, though, that the difference in speed between these two classes of cars, right? The GTO going to have to lift way big time going into there. I'm not surprised if they're probably actually on the brakes to kind of set the nose, while these GTP cars have so much more aerodynamic grip. So I won't be surprised when we see some crazy aggressive moves. I wouldn't doubt to see some GTPs try to fly around the outside of some GTOs there, but it's got to be a trust factor between the competitors out there. And with nearly 50 cars at Road America, I think the first time through the field, so what's that going to be, about 5 laps, 10 laps? It's going to be getting through, and then once you're into that meat and potatoes section, the big rhythm section in the middle, then we'll really see where people settle down.
Well, it takes two to tango for multiclass, but I'm not Claudia Winkleman. He is not Tess Daly. This is not Strictly Come Dancing. This is IMSA Vintage on the Global SimRacing Channel as the Porsche pace car gets ready to dive in. An hour of Road America is under the control of Jacob Reed in that ever so fancy yellow and green car. He's going to wait up that hill for the last moment. Remember his championship rival Valenteus right in the backfield, and now they go green, and it looks like a really good chance here because Henrik Swebeg wants to try and make this pretty wide, almost takes into the back of his teammate there, holds onto it as much as he can. That could have been a little bit scary. Slides in though and gets that position. A couple other drivers making some moves right away. The GTOs will be coming down, but let's just have a quick look at the turn 3, and Fernando Sabato makes one move up.
It is your pole sitter, Hagner, out front, who is able to maintain the lead as the GTOs get the green flag here at Road America. There was slight contact between the number 11 and the number 4 car. That was between Schleret and Van Hicks going through turn number 14. Look at how busy it gets a little bit deeper in the field there. That's Josh Brain in that bright red and yellow number 15 with Timothy Reed really scrapping it out behind him.
Having a bit of an issue out there at the moment. He's now down three as well in the GTPs. Nico Alarts as well, and I think Jason Petty's had a moment as well. Valente is already up to 4 places as well. We keep an eye on Timothy Reed, sorry. So tough to go around the outside of turn 5, and I'll tell you what, he's done a really good job there. He's side by side with Martin Freitrich. They're going to go side by side through the Corvette bridge and around and get into turn 6, and that is where it finally has to yield. But up ahead of him is a little bit of a side-by-side battle as Ian Haycock goes by, and more side-by-side as Josh Brain just has to hold off for Jack David Spickett. That's a Jack David Spickett in a GTO, of course.
Yeah, and just so unfortunate for this red and yellow machine of Josh Brain. It almost seems like he can't stop the bleeding, as it looks like Mistretta making a move down there in Canada corner. A little bit of gravel being kicked up, some of the cars that have already ran through that section. And then, of course, we go all the way up the hill here. Here is that number 1 car, Andreas Valenteus. Remember, we're going to keep an eye on him. He started nearly at the back of the field, I think about 20th place position, maybe 21st. He's already worked his way inside the top 15 with this pass right here.
Yeah, he was almost going to make that there. He could have made it on Dechari. Dechari did not have a good exit out of turn 14, but Valente is smart, and he's just going to wait. There's also a slow car ahead of them, which looked like it was Dylan Freckleton up there as well, almost coming together. Now, interestingly, the last time Valenteus crashed out of a race that I was broadcasting, he wanted to start at the back of the field in the GTOs, got caught in a wreck. He's looking not to get caught in a wreck here. This is going to be tough. He's not going to try and go 2 around the outside here at turn 5. He won't. He's set up, but Dechari realized the situation to wait, and at the end of the day, it's a waiting game here in an hour-long race. There's still another 57 minutes to go.
Well, and Craig, you know, you're a lot more familiar than I am with these cars and how long they can make it on fuel. Are these drivers going to have to stop today?
For the GTPs, yes. The GTOs is going to be a no, because they managed to do an hour when they last did the Road America 500, just for context, so GTOs can do a no-stopper.
Okay, so I was going to point out that the number 1 car, since we were just watching him, he was going so easy into turn number 1, into turn number 3. Yes, he made the pass into turn number 5, but it seems like that number 1 car is already heavy fuel save.
Well, the last man to do a no-stopper in a GTP is that number 1 of Audrey's Valenteus, as Andrew Petty having a bit of a moment coming out of the Bill Mitchell turn there at turn 13. It is unlucky for some, and it was unlucky for him. Antonio Alvarez has gone around at Canada corner. That's a big air as well there. Dunya as well, also having a moment there, and not what you want to see. Valenteus also up another lap, but up in front is Jacob Reed, still doing his thing out there. He's got Jack Wells with him, but back to the GTOs, and it's what we expect to see. It's all aboard that GTO train.
It's literally a train from first all the way down to 23rd position right now, and the largest gap in that 23 cars is 7/10 of a second. You see our top 5 pretty much running extremely close, nose to tail, kicking up some gravel as they go up the hill here. Come up to turn number 14, the final corner at Road America, and you see Van Hicks really on the back of the bumper there of Cal Youngs. It looks like we're going to get a replay probably of what happened down there in Canada corner with these GTP cars. This is Antonio Alvarez. Just got a little bit wide, kicked up some wheel spin there, and it was actually not only himself, but that car directly behind as well. Pretty much did the exact same thing, but about 100 yards further down the track.
Yeah, I think Dunya actually got hit from the back of the car there, because it looked like he lost a lot of speed going off the track. They both went off the gravel there, trying to do their own synchronized dancing there. But this is this train that we expect, and you won't see overtaking in this GTO train unless somebody had a mistake. Well, I say that. Hang on, boys, this is lap 3. You don't want to go 3 wide down here, but one driver decides, I want to set the pace, and welcome to the peloton known as the GTOs. We've called it a train, now we call it a tour cycle race. Cal Young has decided, I had the run, and I don't blame him. Henning Swebig now another one to fall victim to Canada corner. But yeah, these GTOs with Mickey Friesen stuck here in 9th position, they're going to be happy enough to just do these leapfrogging for a little.
Well, and you know, I just want to point something out. Everybody here is heavy fuel save. I didn't want to say it on the first lap because I wasn't sure, but our leader, Hagner, our pole sitter, Hagner, it was heavy fuel save into turn number 5 on the very first lap. Looks like we're going to get another replay. So Canada corner is the action zone. This is Henning Schwebig. Going down the inside here in the number 17, and then looks like an over-under there from the number 8 car, but does look like a little bit of contact. That's Gabri Martinez, and unfortunately Schwebig and Martinez with heavy damage.
Yeah, you're going to wonder if that was the right over-under. Maybe just a quick lift. Lift would save you some fuel and then get you some pace. And a man who was doing some aggressive saving, this is not a glitch. He is now up 12 places in 4 laps. That is why we call him the alien. Andrew Petty's had a moment as well. He's had a moment out there on the field. I wonder if he's had an off. It looks like he had an off at the start of the lap, and he's going, well, not the start of the lap, down at the carousel. He's going a bit slow now and just losing grip there, and a lot of gravel getting kicked up here as here comes David Ricciardi going side by side. I'm surprised that Hamilton Barrera-Reese tried to go into the holding pin punch. He's going to follow it through, and unfortunately for Petty, one mistake almost slides around. Good save, but one mistake out the carousel into that high speed down to Canada corner cost him 3 positions.
Yeah, Andrew Petty, just so unfortunate here. The number 21 car, that little bit of a replay we saw down through the carousel, then also kind of a double whammy down there in the Canada corner. So this is Fabio Dom here in the number 22 car trying to make an overtake for what is 4th place, and looks like he is able to clear Fernando Serrato out there. So move that number 22 car up into 4th. But kind of back to my competitive racing brain over here. I think that our regular front runners are doing heavy fuel save. I just saw Andreas Schuster drop all the way down the order from the number 7 car, so definitely a problem in that GTO class. But it'll be interesting which cars are going to go out there, run their pace, and try to kind of extend that gap just by naturally being faster, or which cars are going to make up the time with a shorter pit stop in pit lane.
Or drivers that actually keep themselves out of the clear here because this is what happened to Schuster. A little bit of bumping and running there. And then somebody, I did not see who it was, tried to get fit into a gap that Schuster and Cloud were side by side. And there was a small little place to go in. And it just caused a moment there. So no one's got Nico Alarat, I think, not the man involved there, has a meatball flag, but don't know who it was, but for Schuster, in this train, as we were talking about, it's now 21 of the 24 cars are now in this line, and for this man, Jacob Reed, well, he's probably got past the easiest car he has to, because 10 seconds up the road is one massive train, and I mean massive.
Now, I know we don't know who Batman is, really, but I was able to do some detective work, and the car that you were talking about, Craig, was unfortunately Jack David Spickett, one of our regulars. That was the number 13 car that tried to make it 3 wide. That kind of caused that Andreas Schuster incident. So, unfortunate there, but I think he might have got away with one. There was some ping-ponging afterwards, but it seemed like some netcode bounced all the bodywork back into place.
As a table tennis player, it's table tennis, not ping pong, but the point still stands as Cal Young is leading him away, and we may see a little bit of tennis action because, aggressive lifting. And that's interesting, and he loses it, and everyone stacks up behind him. Now, thanks to Cam Porter, who isn't racing today, but has been racing earlier in the week. What we did not know was the fuel limit was restricted for this race. It was not the same fuel as what they had back in the Road America 500. So all our theory of, the Audis can do an hour, good luck today. It's going to be tough because that is a heavily restricted fuel tank compared to what it normally is. I don't think they're going to be able to do this.
Well, here, let's just kind of put it into perspective. So the qualifying times, pole qualifying in GTO was a 204.2, right? There was several cars in the 204 range, call it all the way in top 5, almost top 10, as Andrew Petty is able to escape that one. That was Bergmeister going a little bit wide into the gravel down there at turn number 8. Common area because it's a downhill brake zone. You always feel like you can get the car stopped, but it always continues on as a GTP are finally moving through the GTOs. But I was going to say that 204s is what the GTOs qualified at. They're currently turning 207s, mid 207s, so 3+ seconds off of what they can actually go.
At the moment, I feel like that the GTPs might be doing 2-minute lap times because look at the traffic that Laus Olsen and Valenteus have to go through. And Laus is pretty experienced when it comes to the traffic. But Valenteus is a fantastic multi-class driver. That's not knocking Laus' ability. It's just how good they are. Now, he's going to try and get a toe here. Real good, smart play here from Valenteus. He gets one toe. Laus doesn't have another toe. He's just squeezing a little bit, but then the track opens up. But Valenteus can't make it. Smart defense there from Laus Olsen. He's allowed one move, and well, he's allowed as many moves as long as he doesn't do any blocking, but he managed to just put the car just a little bit pointing towards the wall. There was nothing there for Valenteus.
And I think that with multi-class traffic, you can get away with a little bit more because you can always say, well, I wasn't defending, I was actually making a move on the GTO in front of him. And there you see Laus, he's leaving plenty of room for the number 1 car, but he overshoots turn number 5. That is the door open. Andreas Valenteus is going to take it and say thank you very much for what is 5th place. And you saw Fernando Serrato as well be able to move by Laus Olsen. So now the stack-ups continue. Work your way through turn number 7, get down to the inside of this GTO car, and everything stacks back up here at turn number 8. And just like that, Valenteus has his next customer directly in front of his windshield. That's the number 22 of Fabian Dahm.
Oh, look, the carousel is so tough for multi-class traffic. GTPs have to go around the outside. This is going to be tough for the king. Serrato, that's not the place to do it. And on the brakes go Joni Hagner. Thankfully, he has to go on the brakes. That's going to be interesting for that, but we've got to watch this. Valenteus straight away going to get it. David Ricciardi has to take a tow. Valenteus now up to 4th. He's going to find 9 seconds to get up to the Legend Jack, but that is crucial for him. Meanwhile, behind the rest of the GTP team still going. Bergmeister having that moment earlier, trying to battle Diego Mastretta. More chaos as well. Is that one of the leaders? Phil Geray, and more damage as well in the big pile-up at Canada corner, eh?
We've got multiple cars involved, and Craig, you were spot on. Theo Schleret was involved, and unfortunately, it was nothing to do with him. He was leaving room, and unfortunately got punted by one of these GTP cars out here. So unfortunate for that number 11.
So unfortunate. It was actually Brendan Lim. Now, in all due fairness, I think Brendan Lim was trying to be a little bit too ambitious. We'll look at the replay in a moment, and I think Lim just got off the brakes. Theo was turning in late, and at some point you have to turn in, and that's caused a big moment there. 3 GTOs in the pit, 3 GTPs in the pit. Ian Haycock, we'll keep an eye. This is Ian Haycock battling Jack David Spickett. They've not had the best of starts, but with Theo now out the race, they've gained a couple positions. Side by side they'll go. No GTPs around them at the moment. They can have a breather. Remco Snell behind them wants to have a little bit of a move. Won't get it done. JDS holds on to that P8, but just the lock up there, and now they gotta just breathe because they're through half that GTP traffic.
Breathe, Craig. We're not even 15 minutes into this thing. It is going to continue to be crazy out here. You saw Ian Haycock's, Jack David Spickett out there, and now JDS is getting taken advantage of by that number 32 caller. That is Remco Snell moving down the inside, and I have a feeling we've got a few replays because Canada Corner was a very, very busy place. I think I just saw that Thorben Paulik was also involved, as it looks like we finally have one queued up here. Take a look at what happens to Theo Schleret. The purple GTP car comes down and unfortunately just smashes into the right rear of that number 11 car. And then just watch this. It continues to kind of domino out from here, Craig. So many more cars involved.
Oh, man. Usually you think there's a big pileup after one incident. You're thinking, where do you look? Where do you look? This is where everyone says the F1 replays. Why we're seeing so many replays. And Theo's, he's trying to brake, and bless him, he's half on the grass as well. And there's a massive pileup. I see 4, 5 cars there. They start towing, but for Theo, he had the big moment there. He got knocked around. He survived onto the gravel. And I think it was that heat at the moment. Got to get going. Not realizing there was a car spun ahead, and he tried to hit the brakes. Gravel and grass, and that's not really a combination with these sort of tires.
No, well, and, you know, I went back and looked at it. I actually think it's the number 25 car, Vitor Sintez Galindo, that just didn't see a car in front of him and ended up just pile driving into the back of one of the GTO cars. That was the same kind of class car, but that's kind of what caused the additional second mess down there. But circle Canada Corner. That's turn number 12. That is not the last time we'll be talking about it.
But before the broadcast, we made a joke how I just watched it without Vitor Sintez Galindo making a mistake. Before the broadcast, we had a bit of a joke how IMSA always like called basically almost every braking corner here a danger zone. But Canada Corner, no matter what series you're in, IndyCar, IMSA, we'll call it Xfinity as well. It's always a danger zone out there. Jacob Reed just continues to pile on the pace. Ian Haycock's looking like a little bit like Elvis with a lip there at the front and taking some damage. Jack David Spickett getting on by. And this is the sort of track where you kind of need that top speed, and that damage will be affecting the aero, even in these wedges, these refrigerators, these, I don't know, can we call it cheesehead, being that we're in Wisconsin? I think that's the best thing to say, Joey, but you get the idea. They need that downforce, and he's going to be losing a bit.
Yeah, you know, when I was racing back in the GS days in Grand Dam, we had a few large cars out there. Ian Haycock's was almost getting taken advantage of out there. But you said refrigerator. That's kind of what I referred to the big Camaros and Challengers and whatnot. They look like big old refrigerators going around the racetrack. And I kind of think of the GTOs more as hovercrafts, right? They almost look like they don't have any tires on them, and they're so low slung out here, almost like a hovercraft skating along the surface of this racetrack. But I was just going to kind of point out Canada Corner because you had mentioned how everywhere is almost circled as a danger area, but Canada Corner in specific it's so high speed going down into that brake zone, and the straightaway is anything but straight going into that brake zone, so it kind of naturally leads to these drivers making aggressive moves out to the driver's right side, because guess what? That's where the car naturally wants to go when you're doing 165, 175 miles an hour down here at the end of the straightaway. So if you get in a little bit too deep and you're off on driver's right side of the road, Craig, where does that lead you? Straight to apex. If you're in too deep and you're going straight to apex, it's usually bad news bears.
Oh, that's a great move from Andrew Petty, and that's a really good example because we know that Brendan Lim may have a little bit of front damage, but you've got to get the carousel right in these cars because the kink is flat and you get such a strong run. Petty just took that, and I'll tell you what, that is his open wheel pedigree there because the door was shut, but there was still another door. And Andrew Petty's got that dog in him, so we're going to call it a dog flap, and he managed to get on by. And that puts him up into the top 10, back in the top 10 because he started 6th. This is where this man is right now, Fernando Serrato, and he's doing a nice race. We don't see Fernando a lot. Usually these longer races, he comes out for them, and he's battling Fabio Darm. And these are two names we don't see a lot, and not because of the carnage of the GTPs. You've got to tip your hat up to these non-regulars. They're really putting in the pace and really doing well out there.
So, Craig, I got to get a little bit technical here with you because you had mentioned, multiple doors out there, and then we're going to call it the dog flap. But isn't the doggy door usually inside the normal door?
Yes.
So is it the same door or is it a different door?
All right, we'll just call it the look, in England, there are some houses where they have a dog flap on the wall. Don't
There you go. Okay.
Don't
All right. Clarification. There we go.
We'll call it like that as we watch Valenteus has not exactly been pulling ahead as much as he can. The gap is 7 seconds to Christopher Lesjak. But the question is, how much was he fuel saving? Because even if he's not going to be able to no stop it, look how flat out they are all the time here. If he's not fuel saving, that pit stop will be a quicker pit stop if he saved a lot of fuel. Not saying he's going to find that 15 seconds on Jacob Reed, but I do feel a podium is in his sight today.
So here's the thing with Valenteus. From starting from the back, he actually, I would not call it an advantage. It's a severe disadvantage in terms of track position, just as you highlighted, right? About 15 seconds back from the lead. However, those first 4 laps of working your way through the GTP traffic as Snell just gives a big old body slam there to Ian Haycox at turn number 6. Moved that car out of the way. But I was going to get to say that when you're making your way through those significantly slower cars and through that traffic, it gives you more opportunity to fuel save even more aggressively. So I would say the first handful of laps, Valenteus was actually in the advantage in terms of the fuel save. Disadvantage in terms of track position, advantage in terms of fuel. We'll just see what the pit stop tells us.
Yeah, got to see that. Well, we were just seeing that as moment. A couple of corners after that Remco Snell moment with Ian Haycock, we actually see Jack David Spickett got on the grass on braking down for turn 8 at the Hurry Downs, and he went off and crashed. But that with Remco Snell is a key thing in the GTOs, and it comes to that little experience you need that you can't outbrake in a GTO. You have to set the overtake up, and he tried to outbrake, and to be fair, Ian was starting to turn, and he had to turn at some point, and the car in front, or the car beside him, Remco, wasn't turning as Timothy Reed is hoping he doesn't need to do anything like that at the moment, is trying to catch up to Romain Bello, and then they're also trying to catch up to Remco, and this is what they have to do now as Ian Haycock's coming to the pit. This is what they've got to do. They are about 6 seconds away from the next pack. They're going to have to work together if they want to catch up here, Joey.
Probably as we see Ian Haycox come down here, I think that's going to be twofold, not only to get the fuel that he needs to make it to the end, but also to fix up the car and fix up any damage, so that way he can hope to have a little bit more race pace as we see the battle for what is 13th on the racetrack. That includes Andreas Schuster. Now, we had mentioned him a little bit earlier. He was involved in one of those big accidents, so I think that he is making his way back up through the field. Same thing kind of here with Brendan Lim, was involved in a few extracurricular activities, but has made his way back up into the 10th place right now, down to the inside of some of those GTO cars. Nicely done from Brendan out there as he rockets down the straightaway. So our leaders, just a little bit of math out here. Fastest lap time of a 46. They qualified at a 44. I know that fuel does play a difference in terms of that lap time. I'm going to be curious to see if Valenteus puts the hammer down or if he continues to fuel save.
Well, he's just got past Lesjak. I think Christoph just had a moment out there, and I see him now at the carousel. In fact, he spun around. He's tried to slow down Remco Snell, turned down at turn 8, and turn 8, another danger zone there. He's had a spin. Valenteus, with no help there, takes that P3 away. Let's just watch it again. Now, he's coming down. This is totally normal down the hurry downs. Now, I wondered, is that... Yeah, he's gone in too fast. He was never making that overtake there. And that was just a moment where probably a little bit ambitious, or maybe just not carrying or not slowing down fast enough. I want to say the latter, not the former. I mean, good thing is he hasn't picked up damage. Bad thing is he's down in P4. Andrew Petty is, well, just down another position.
Well, and, you know, just to kind of beat a dead horse out here is Andrew Petty is actually going to take an advantage of. That's Hamilton Ruiz that was able to play the traffic a little bit better. But talking about that spin down there, now Andrew Petty was trying to get around a GTO car, but he had plans to go down into pit lane. So I think Andrew is probably saying, all right, finally got a little bit of a clean windshield, can focus on some laps out here. But back to that spin, when you got all the weight on the nose of the car, right, and you're already in too deep, and then you finally just make that little bit of front-end contact, sometimes that's all you need is that little bit of a pivot point, and that's exactly what sent around Olencic.
Now, that moment there of Andrew Petty and Viramaki, that's one of those that you want to be calling. He did apologize at Viramaki, but that's one of those that you usually say you're pitting. It's such a tough moment when you have that multi-class aspect as well. And I've got to feel these GTOs, that they've got nets on the side of their car. Surely, Joey, they could kind of do a NASCAR thing here and just put their hand out saying they're pitting. I know the pit lane's on the right here, but surely they could have just done that, right? Yeah,
but the problem is you got to reach down and grab your virtual reality controller and then hold it out the side of your sim rig to get your guy's arm out there. It's just a whole process.
Yeah, you've probably got a point there. Yeah, we'll just stick it like that as Timothy Reed. We're not even halfway through the race, and Timothy Reed still trying to battle on for positions here, and behind him is the GTO. He's got a bit too wide on his own. Now, that's on his own, not help there from the GTP. In fact, give a shout out to Brendan Limper actually waiting up there. Jacob Reed going faster once again, and going faster by a lot, 3/10 faster than Jack Wells. Going to keep eyes on that timing tower with the top two. Going to be interesting, but Timothy Reed, that one mistake hasn't cost him. I'm worried, Joey, because every time any series comes to Road America with multi-class, there's usually an incident at the kink, and I'm knocking on wood. We haven't had one yet, but it's going to happen.
Look, we're not even halfway through here. 34 minutes remaining, gone through about 25 minutes of this 60-minute race so far. And, yeah, we've had some large incidents down there at Canada Corner. Haven't had anything scary at the kink, like you were just kind of mentioning. And I think that the more we continue to race, the more the field gets spread out. So hopefully it won't be a GTP car running up on, call it a train of GTO cars like we saw earlier. They'll be running up on a single GTO car, or maybe two of them, as Doug Cloud almost gets into the back of his competitor directly in front of him. I think that was Mickey Friesen. Maybe just a little bit too ambitious on that brake marker here for this number 16 car, but thankfully escapes without any incident.
Yeah, they're trying to catch up to the lead four cars, of the train. You can't see them at the moment. You may just see them just heading down. No, you won't see them, sadly. That's Johan Van Hicks trying to go ahead. Well, I'm going to say, we talk about the incidents. At least it's not like the Road America 500 feature time slots, which had a crash before they even got to the green flag, just coming up the hill. And that took out a chunk of drivers. And we haven't had that yet, and we won't have that because we haven't got all 48 cars on the start-finish line as Jacob Reed goes fastest once again, and Johan Van Hicks. Again, this is what we're expecting. Van Hicks is happy. Cal Young is fast enough for him. He is starting to lose a little bit of Joni Hagner, but fuel saving is vital here, and they'll make that gap back up. There's no need to panic right now if you're Johan Van Hicks.
Correct, and they're all close enough. Yes, Cal Young is, call it, barely in slipstream range, and actually there is the first strategy card being played. So Joni Hagner into pit lane. That was your pole sitter, your overall leader in GTO, has come down and is going to get fuel filled up in that thing, enough to make it to the checkered flag.
Yeah, Mickey Friesen also dies in, that's going to be an interesting call. I'm going to say, Joey, we need to keep our eyes out on that, because that for Mickey Friesen, that's a for sure undercut, and this is the first time I've seen a Mickey Friesen relaxing. I do see a drink there, Mickey. I know you've got your Bane mask on, aka the microphone. I do see a drink in for a long pit stop that this can be. I don't blame him, but this to me, Joey, feels like a definite undercut to try and leapfrog those 2 cars ahead of him.
I think he was just releasing some stress there in that pit stop. But Mickey Friesen, as well as our overall leader there, like I had mentioned, both down pit lane. Now, this is an interesting strategy call. I think when it comes down to endurance racing, here in the sim, flat out, if there's nobody else on the racetrack, the best strategy is to run the car as light as possible on fuel. Run it till it is completely empty, because it gets so fast when it is so light on fuel. Now, what these cars are doing is they're pitting a little bit more, call it, 60% of the way through. So they're going to carry all of this extra fuel weight from now until when it finally runs out. However, with multi-class traffic, you can look down at that relative. Are there 10 GTP cars stacked up behind me? Is this going to be slow for the next 2 to 3 laps because I have to make way at Apex? So is that the opportunity to come down and say, I want the clean racetrack, except you'll have a heavier car now?
Yeah, but at least you'll be able to go a little bit more hell-bent for leather as Valenteus fastest lap, a tenth faster than Jacob Reed. And I'm just looking at where the track and where the drivers are at the moment for those GTRs, and Mickey would have probably had a look at a map, and there's no GTP traffic around him if he pitted. And I think where he is right now, and I haven't actually looked at him right now, but there he is. Yeah, I'm looking right now. He's just got the lead of Valente. Is about to lap him. He timed that to perfection, I feel. And I feel, Doug, this is a reaction because he knew they were... In fact, Josh has also come in. This is a reaction. I wonder if this is going to help them or hinder them, because Mickey may have got a good run here.
We'll see. It's about to unfold here, and call it the next 35 seconds. We'll just kind of keep our eyes on Mickey Friesen. I see that Doug Cloud is actually rolling on pit lane right now. Now, just remember, with 50 cars, Road America pit lane extremely long. These cars chugging along at 45 miles an hour while Mickey Friesen is screaming up the hill. Doug Cloud finally off of the pit lane speed limiter. He is going to merge out in front of Mickey Friesen.
That's interesting. Mickey had Theo Charret ahead of him. And I thought, well, actually, that's a good thing, because Theo could have given him a bit of a tow. Theo doesn't really have that much damage. And then you look at Theo, and yeah, the front of the car is mangled. So unfortunately, that's not helped for Mickey. I don't think that cost him. That's just a really good pit stop there for Doug. If I look at the times, Doug was actually 4 seconds faster cone to cone there. So I do wonder what's happened as the first GTP driver comes in, which is Fernando Serrato, and he's doing a 51.49.
I think the bigger question about the Doug Cloud pit stop is I look at Joni Hagner, 15 seconds stationary. Mickey Friesen, 15.7 seconds. Josh Brain, 15.6 seconds. Doug Cloud, who made that jump there, 13 seconds stationary. 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds faster. Less fuel, I should say.
Yeah, that's going to be maybe a lap and a half less. I don't know the fuel rates, and unfortunately, look at me, Joey. I have a degree in accounting. I don't have a degree in mechanics.
Those are numbers. Those are numbers.
They're numbers. So take the 5 to the left side, add it to the credit. Yeah. A lap and a half. We'll call it a lap and a half as Van Hicks is getting on. I wonder if those drivers behind pitting has made these drivers think about being a little bit more aggressive, but these two are starting to pull ahead. Noah Lundberg is the background just trying to say, wait for me, like the train is leaving.
You just got to think of the fuel save as the credit card percentage fee, right? Can you get me 3%? Can you get me 3.5% every lap? Oh, you can get me 4.2%? Even better.
Was this the APR right now? I'm not entirely sure what's going on out there as well. I can report that Dunya Dogavenci has had to take a tow, and it was a kink moment. So unfortunately, I've got to say it, Joey, we've had our first moment.
It took us about a half hour to get down into the race. Let's check out exactly what happened here in the kink. And that's multi-class for you. Just running through at such a higher rate of speed than the Audi, but I'll give the number 44 car credit right here. Didn't have 100% control of the steering, locked down the brakes on the side of the racetrack, not to affect anybody else.
Yeah, he knew straight away that he just had to get out of the way, and fair play for getting out of the way. Smart driving there, even after a little bit of a moment. And again, you say that's multi-class racing, and you've got to remember that those GTOs, they even have to brake for the kink. They're probably one of the only cars of this speed and this power that has to brake out there. So for the kink, so it's just unfortunate. Henning Swebeg has not been the day for him. Down 6, Hamilton Barrera Ruiz had a little bit of a look there, but we're down into now, well, we're 6 minutes away from finishing what would be a normal IMSA Vintage race at 40 minutes. Now comes the endurance aspect, and 20 minutes doesn't sound a lot, Joey, but 20 minutes can be a cause of fatigue for some drivers.
It can be, and I just kind of put a note in behind the scenes here because I went back and looked at the minimum apex speeds through the kink, and it kind of adds to your point that you're just talking about, the fatigue, right? There is a 50-mile-per-hour difference of minimum rolling speed through the kink. The Audis, you're spot on. They have to lift. They got a brake going in there, so they're actually decelerating down to about 120, 125 miles an hour. While the GTPs are flat out, they're accelerating through 170 up to 175 miles an hour through the kink. So 50-mile-per-hour closing rate difference. You got to have your brain switched on to be able to time that.
Oh, hello here, Noah Lundberg, taking a little bit of a move. And I can report Legend Jack has a memory leak issue, their hardware issue at the moment. So he's just battling on. Noah Lundberg does take that, and the leader passes the leader at the moment. So this is going to be interesting. Chalk another lap that gets taken off. Andrew Petty now into the pit. I think this now means it's 12 GTPs left to pit, and it's about the same number in the GTOs. But Noah Lundberg making that overtake very interesting now, because that was Cal Young leading the way, and Cal did the exact same thing to Lundberg, well, about 15 laps ago. And now it's just role reversal.
And these, call it 3 cars right here leading this GTO class, they're on what I would call strategy plan number 8, right? They have not come down pit lane yet. They are stretching this thing all the way out, or at least nearly all the way out of gas, and then they'll come down and grab the minimal amount of fuel in order to make it to the end. So we got these 3 cars here, as it looks like the number 62 is going to be sliding his way through our GTO leaders. And then we'll just have to keep an eye on where is Joni Hagner in all of this. Because remember, he was part of this lead group when he pitted early, and now he's by himself out there on the racetrack. So we'll just have to see which is going to play out better. Strategy A that we're watching right here, or strategy B of the early pit?
Well, here's the interesting thing. Joni Hagner is 39-ish seconds behind these 3. And pit stops have been 44 if you're Doug Cloud going really aggressive with the fuel, to about 48 seconds if you're being Mickey Friesen and enjoying having a little bit of a moment out there. So it makes you wonder, does he have it? And are they going to be worried? They won't be worried, but they'll need to realize that they have to start working together. And the man who I always look at as, I wouldn't put the crown on him, but I would quotation marks the king. Or when it comes to a draft track, and that's what Road America is, and that's what the drivers on iRacing love, is a track like this because it's a draft track. This puts Noah Lundberg, in my opinion, as the prime candidate for victory, because this is his sort of capability, and now he's in the lead. Don't be surprised if he starts to just turn it up a couple notches here. I think he may just reach for that extra gear stick and just go up into high gear right now.
And I think that what I'm actually most curious about, you know, these drivers and kind of their performance windows a little bit better than I do here in this IMSA Vintage series, but I actually think that Van Hicks and Cal Young are in potentially the best position possible, because if Lundberg can kind of tow him along at this 204.8, they are matching the lap times that Joni Hagner is doing out there. So Hagner's not closing that gap at all. They're maintaining even. if Cal and Yoram can start to fuel save while maintaining that exact same pace, they could potentially do that leapfrog. Now, I know that this is adding a lot onto the plate of these drivers, but they're running inside the top 3. They're running inside that slipstream, inside that toe, so the possibility is potentially there.
Well, I'm pretty sure we're still playing chess out there, as we always say on the racing, and you don't really want to add checkers to it. You don't want to make it that Star Trek chess that they made. I don't understand that, but you get the idea. Let's just keep it to a chessboard at the moment, is what the drivers are saying. We'll think about the issues when we get into the pit stoppers. And as the Jack comes into the pits, and we did just see Mickey Friesen, and I would keep my eyes on Mickey because Mickey managed to catch up to the back of Doug Cloud. Real good. And I want to say it's good driving, but I think Doug also had a bit of a moment out there as well. Lost a second and a half. So he unfortunately had a little moment, but look at what Jacob Reed's just done. A 1:45.5. Valenteus was faster, did have an off track, really is starting to crank it up, and Valenteus is only 4.5 seconds behind Jack Wells at the moment.
And you had mentioned Mickey Friesen. He had actually just turned his fastest lap of the race, that previous lap at a 2:04.7, so was the fastest GTO car. So you combine that with that little bit of an issue that you were talking about. Mickey Friesen was ripping out there on the racetrack. Same thing with that number 1 and number 2 car of Valenteus and Jacob Reed. Definitely kind of our pace setters in the GTPs. These GTO leaders continuing inside this top 3 train, about 20 minutes remaining, and the curiosity in my brain is starting to tick over a little bit more. How far can these drivers stretch it on fuel? Can they make it till 10 minutes to go? Can they make it till 5 minutes to go? When is that pit window finally going to open for both of these classes?
Well, it's definitely going to be a when. It's not going to be an if today. Dylan Frack got it right behind. Just had a bit of a moment at Canada corner, and that's going to allow Brendan Lim to go on by. Those two are having a little bit of a battle. But yeah, it's definitely when, not if, for these drivers. And I do wonder if they do want to commit to this. And if they, again, we think to ourselves there is no stopper today, just due to the nature of the limited fuel, the limited tank they've got out there. So it does feel like they have to commit, and they have to commit one way or the other. And usually when it comes to pitting, just for you, Joey, and for those viewers that don't usually watch the hour-long endurance races here, you're looking at about the last 10, 7 minutes, 5 minutes at a push, but you don't want to be pitting that late, because then if you need to make some moves, you've left it all too late.
Remember, folks, Road America is 4 miles in length, so it's not something like, call it Lime Rock Park, right, or Mid-Ohio, or even Road Atlanta, the other RA-named track, where you can kind of get around quite quickly. I mean, these drivers are doing 2 minute plus in terms of that lap time, so the fuel window, it can be pretty narrow, right? You can either make it a whole 2 more minutes on fuel, 4 miles, and remember, lots of uphill here. There's not a ton of downhill coasting at Road America. All the coasting that happens at Road America is because you're going so gosh dang fast at the end of these straightaways that you can afford to lift off of the gas. Through the carousel down here, you can kind of coast a little bit, but you got to accelerate, and our GTP strategy cards are finally falling. Jacob Reed, Andreas Valenteus, both in pit lane. I think I see Jack Wells in pit lane as well.
Yeah, Jacob Reed, the first one into his box, then Valenteus, then Jack Wells, and that's interesting that Valenteus gets that pit box as well, so that's going to be an advantage. Now comes the key time here. I've got a cone-to-cone time. Joey's got the ability to look at how long they're sat in. Lars Olsen, who was 4th, give a shout out to Lars Olsen. I know he's going to lose a couple positions due to pit stop, but even still, battling on. Jacob Reed, 56 seconds out there. That's big. Now, what about the next car? It's going to be Valenteus rolling before Jack Wells. He's going to be able to almost leapfrog. In fact, there's only 3 seconds between them. 55 seconds for Jack Wells. It's going to be 57 for Valenteus. Hang on, Joey. Wasn't Valenteus fuel saving?
Yes. So I'm really looking at the difference between Jacob Reed and Valenteus. And it looks like Laus Olsen is also in there. He's got a black flag. I bet you that's going to be speeding going into pit lane. So, Yes, I do think the number one was fuel saving. Stationary for 26.3. Jacob Reed stationary for 25.1. The question mark that you're wondering, Jack Wells stationary for 23 seconds. So 3 seconds faster than Valenteus. 3 seconds less fuel than Valenteus.
And I don't think that's going to attribute to 3 seconds an advantage. That's just going to, it's just going to delay the inevitable at this moment. Valenteus is driving on. Interestingly, right behind Jacob Reed is Dylan Freckleton, yet to pit, and realistically, Dylan is the last man to pit. So give a shout out to Dylan Freckleton for going 45 minutes, it would be roughly, on a full tank of fuel, and a full formation lap, which is also something we always forget about. So Jacob Reed only extends that lead, well, actually loses time to that lead. The gap is now 10 seconds to Jack Wells. It's still 15 seconds to Valenteus. I think Valenteus kind of has to throw the towel in with 16 minutes to go. He'd have to be a second faster than Jacob Reed. I can't see that happen.
No, and you look at their overall fastest laps, and they're nearly on top of each other in terms of that capability, both at a 46.0. Jacob Reed, rightfully so, our leader, our pole sitter, has actually been the fastest car in the GTP class. Fast lap of a 45.5 out there, so nearly a half second faster than those two cars we've been talking about. And then you saw Dylan Freckleton, that bright purple car. Now, Dylan has yet to hit pit lane. That number 19 car is trying to stretch it as far as possible, but will eventually have to make that pit stop.
Gonna have to make that pit stop. Noah Lundberg comes into the pit now. Where's Joni Hagner? Where's the number 3 right now? I'm just going to keep a look onto the track. He's battling Andreas Schuster. Is he being held up from Andreas Schuster is the next question as Noah Lundberg goes in. Here's Joni going up the Bill Mitchell bend with Schuster right in front of him. Hamilton Barrera Reese behind. Hamilton does not have a run. Just can't get the power down there, and you've got to understand. So what happens here? Actually, Noah Lundberg is already rolling. I don't think this has worked for Joni Hagner. Where is Lundberg? He's already out of the pit lane. No, he's not, sorry. My eyes deceived me. Joni Hagner's going to get a run here. We could be 3 wide very shortly. We're 2 wide at the moment. We're going to go back 2 wide. Joni Hagner's capture goes around the outside of turn 1. They almost come together for Verstappen Hamilton style. Around the outside goes Joni Hagner, but Noah Lundberg says, hold on 1 second. But he can't do it anymore. Joni just got it. Cal and Jolim are going to be a little bit worried at that.
What makes this so dramatic is where these GTOs are pitted on the Road America pit lane. It's so far back from where those pit lane speed limiter cones allow you to get racing again. So we saw that pit stop out of Lundberg, and yeah, he was rolling. He got the fuel stop done. However, you have to trundle along at 45 miles an hour for what seems like forever on that straightaway. That's exactly what Joni Hagner was counting on with that early fuel stop. Got the clean windshield, and it has prevailed at least over the number 5 car for now.
Will now put the TM beside it because that's big, and he's also got clean air now. And Schuster did have a little of a damage. You can just see it there, damaged rear. But he still was able to use that toe that Schuster gave him to really just pull on there. And real good. By the way, Dylan Freckleton did come in for his pits. Christopher Leschajak had a speeding penalty. Really hamper him. He's still there in 4th with a good gap. But Joni Hagner is now having to put the foot down. Now, the interesting thing is, Noah Lundberg spent 3 seconds less in the pits to Joni Hagner. Joni put a lot more fuel, and all that fuel had burned off now. This is the first time for a while he's driving with a light car.
Yeah, they should be, call it, equalized on that fuel amount now with 13 minutes remaining. And just kind of looking at the lap times, I think that Hagner is the fastest GTO car on the racetrack, and Cal Young and Jorm Van Hicks are continuing to turn laps out here. So here is the top 2 in the GTO class. A 204.8 from Cal Young that last time by, and I can report it was a 204.5 out of Joni Hagner on that previous lap. So call it a quarter of a second. And when we're talking about those fractions of a second exiting pit lane like we saw the battle with Lundberg, that's what it's going to come down to.
Well, we know that racing can be a battle of tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. And of course, an iRacing moment from the Lotus 79s with 0.017 at the line, so you just never know what these cars can do. And Johan van Hicks has his fair share of drag races to the line as well, so they know how to do it. They know what to do. The question is, when do you execute it? And for Cao Young, I know that our spreadsheets haven't been updated for a while. I'm going to have to do some digging, because I can't remember the last time, if there was a last time, we saw Cao Young on the winner's on the top of the podium.
It's still 12 minutes plus a pit stop remaining. So there's lots of cards to be played. And not only the pit stop, but what happens when these, call it 4 GTO leaders, are on the same piece of racetrack again for the last, call it 2 laps of this race? Are they going to be able to be close enough to really fight it out? Here they come, Cao Young. Oh, Johan van Hicks is actually going to say, I can make it one more lap on fuel. So the number 6 car hitting pit lane.
Number 6 car hits pit lane. I am looking. I see a Cao Young with 2 wins to his name. It's been a while. Johan van Hicks is now going on his own. Joni Hagner, similar situation as before, Joey. He's just come out of turn 12, Canada corner, and he's going up the Bill Mitchell bend. He will have a GTP go around him this time, and there it is. It is Jacob Reed, but Jacob Reed isn't going to hold him up, and it's a wide burst into turn 14 for Joni Hagner. That might help him, and he doesn't have Lundberg getting the slipstream right now. Where is Cao Young? Cao Young's got the front, but he's not going to do it. It's going to be almost a carbon copy. In fact, no, it isn't. There it is, Cao Young. There he is. Straight up there for Joni Hagner by a lot of time. And Cao Young was a second faster cone to cone in the pits.
Yeah, he took 1 second less fuel time than what Hagner did. So there's that 1 second that you were talking about. So I think that this early pit stop strategy for Joni Hagner has definitely paid off. His biggest competitor is in his rear view mirror. That is the number 5 of Noel Lundberg out there, as we see Theo Schleret hit pit lane. It's going to be a race of what if for Theo out here. He was running solidly inside this top draft group before you saw all that damage happen on the car.
So now we look at the times, and actually we've got to give a shout out as well. Timothy Reed hasn't yet to pit as well, and he's got quite a bit of a gap here. If he pits, he's going to go down by quite a lot, but I cannot see Timothy making this all the way. So now with 9 minutes and 48 seconds to go, this is now you say to Johan van Hicks, look, I know you're not from Australia. You got to kind of do what the Aussie Rugby League team did today and just put in a dominant performance up that hill to try and get past the line. And here he goes. He's got no choice. The gap, you can see it, 34 seconds. I don't think that's enough, Joey. I think we may be looking at Joni Hagner retaking the lead.
Yeah, and considering that Van Hicks was actually behind Cao Young when Cal peeled off to pit lane, I know that the previous lap from Van Hicks was one of his fastest and was actually about a 10th faster than this number 3 car, but I think that the difference has already been made. So here comes Hagner out of turn number 14. He is standing on the gas. I can say that Van Hicks just left his pit stall, but remember, he's got to go by all of the GTP pit stalls. He's still doing 45 miles an hour. He looks out the window. There goes Hagner straight on by.
Like the Roadrunner, the Wile E. Coyote is Johan van Hicks, and mimic goes Joni Hagner right by. And now it feels like it's just a battle of pace. But the interesting thing is Johan van Hicks is still behind Cao Young, and Cao Young has lost time to Noah Lundberg. And who was I talking about 20 minutes ago? It's Noah Lundberg. He's still in the slipstream of Joni Hagner. These two pitted the earliest out of the 4, and all of a sudden, it's just these two, I feel, in the battle for the lead.
Yeah, it really is only that number 5 car that's got a potential shot because he is within that slipstream range. I do have to say, though, these two cars, if they don't battle at all and they just turn qualifying laps and our 2 leaders start to fight it out, it can turn into a 4-car race. So how smart is Hagner and Lundberg up front versus how much does Cao Young and Johan van Hicks want to catch up?
Well, Joey, if everything was how we wanted it in the world, if would not exist. So it's going to be a question now of, look, do you want this or do you just want to just scrap it out for P3? Because Jan van Hicks will take either result. Let's just talk about the championship for a moment, because Noah Lundberg would leapfrog just, but then if Van Hicks gets a P4 or a P3, that's still good enough for him, because he could use that as a drop week, as Laus Olsen trying to get some positions out there, and you've got to feel for Laus. He started 11th, he's still 11th, he might have just got boxed in here. This is very tight, he's got to lift. Oh, it's so close down Antonio Alvarez. Nowhere else for him to go. Alvarez did not give him the room. He had a run though. Laus kind of wants this top 10. It'd be nice to finish the day a +1, not a +2, as it looks like Fabio Dam has had a moment out there and he's gone around.
Yeah, so Laus might actually get this top 10 just based off of what happened to Fabio, but looks like the number 22 car is rolling again. The tough part that this yellow and blue 27 has going is right now Antonio Alvarez. That car that just passed him is actually +12 on the day, one of our biggest movers.
Yeah, one of our biggest movers, but the biggest mover, of course, is Valenteus, and Laus has to wait behind the GTO traffic. That is horrible, as there's Valenteus. He comes on by, he's at the fastest lap by a margin last time out, and that gap is now under 2 seconds to Jack Wells, and with 6 minutes to go, only a handful of laps. You've got to feel that he is in go mode, and I'm looking on the timing. I'm looking at the map at the moment, sorry. He does have a chance to try and make some overtake, but there is that GTO up ahead. Jack is starting to panic, and now this is where you hope there's a lot of traffic up ahead, Joey, because Jack kind of needs that right now.
He does, and I'm going to add some fuel to the fire, not only with this GTP, call it second position. Our GTO class has tightened up to the top 4 in the lead group, all in the slipstream. Cal Young is turning the fastest laps of the race, a 204.2 out of the number 6 car. He is now only 7/10 behind Noah Lundberg. So with 5 minutes remaining, he has now officially caught the slipstream.
As we would say from Jake, put a blanket over them. Dylan Freckleton tried to go up by Dylan. You can't hold them up. And Dylan's held up Cal Young a little bit. That's not what he wanted to see. Joni Hagner just keeps on going, and this is the key moment. We said, somebody said in chat, I see a camp order. There's still GTPs to go. Almost! Oh my word, Henning Swebbing! We just missed it. He just split Cal Young and Johan van Hicks in the background. As you've got to realize, Swebbing is battling Freckleton, but you've got to battle as well. These drivers are also trying to give as much respect as they can to these lead GTOs, and that's what Joni Hagner's doing right now. He's saying, look, I can't afford to lose time out here.
Yeah, I think that he just wanted the inside of the racetrack. He said that I can't afford to have a GTP car dive up the inside. I can afford to have them dive around the outside of the car, but I need to have the apex in turn number 1 for the GTO cars. And here we go, more GTP traffic. It looks like this car is actually going to clear all 4 of our GTOs by the time we hit the brake zone right here. So I don't think it's going to affect the lead group too much, but yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, our lead GTO pack.
When you're in a prototype, and I'm telling you right now, when you're in a prototype and you manage to do that here at Road America, it's just it's a dopamine hit that you need, because you're worried. You see the number of slow traffic cars ahead and you're thinking, can I please, please, please? And you're second guessing yourself all the way. And then you start to panic. You see those brake marker boards and you panic some more. Then you realize you get to your braking point, you're side by side, and you're like, oh, I had nothing to worry about. So that's one of the GTPs through. Fabio Dan is 5 seconds behind them, but these 4, this is the closest battle on the track. We've still got battles as well in the GTPs. I'm keeping my eyes on that with Valenteus and Jack Wells. But now, the question is, can Cal actually catch up to Noah Lundberg? Because this gap has stayed a constant 6 to 7 tenths.
I think so. He's continuing to close it in. It was up at 1.4 seconds when the pit stop cycles had finally cycled through. So now he's already cut that down over halfway and firmly in the slipstream range as well. So I think as long as they're not compromised at apex by any of these GTP cars making their way through, Cal Young is going to close it in on our leader. And I have a feeling that at the same time, Lundberg's got a terrific run here on the front straightaway. All four of these cars are going to compress at the exact same time here. Van Hicks was actually our fastest car at a 204.000 that last time by. So is the fourth place car the fastest of the bunch?
Fastest of the bunch, but he needs it as well. Valenteus get past Jack Wells and then uses the traffic to his advantage to hold up Jack Wells. And that's smooth driving. Valenteus finally gets there. It's taken him 58 minutes almost to get it done. He's up to P2. The gap is not what he wants. The question would be, if he qualified, would it have still been the same result? We'll never know. But this is what he needed to do. When we come back now to these guys, Antonio Alvarez having a moment out there as well. He'll come out the top 10. That put Lars Olsen into 10th position. But everybody just starts to bunch up a little bit, and something's got to give, Joey, because there'll only be one more lap after this for these drivers.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be one lap for our GTO cars as well, because Jacob Reed, our GTP leader, is pretty much right behind our GTO cars on the racetrack right now. I don't think he's going to get to him before start-finish this time, but I bet you by next time he will have passed these cars. So the time is running out for everybody on the racetrack right here. Can one of these GTO drivers make that move on Joni Hagner?
Well, this is it. And I'll tell you what, last week, Jacob Reed slowed down and told the leaders of the GTOs, do it. Do one more lap. I don't think it's going to happen this time, but we'll wait to see. Nothing changing this time, and they'll see on their maps that they have to look at it. They'll hear that Doug Cloud's got past Mickey Friesen for P5. They'll hear that Jacob Reed is now overtaking Foreman Pollock. They know where he is. These four still battling. This could be the last time on the start-finish straight to look for a move. Jacob Reed is at turn 13. This is definitely it for them. They won't see the white flag. They'll see it the moment Jacob Reed comes on by. Your Van Hicks is not taking any slipstream here. This is a very questionable decision.
Yeah, and I think that Jacob Reed is on the start-finish line right now, so he takes the white flag. One lap to go here at Road America as we watch our GTO class lead. Joni Hagner leading Noel Lundberg, Cal Young there in the number 6 car, and Van Hicks is the 4th car that white, black, and gold highlights. This is down towards turn number 5. Look at how close Noel Lundberg is. He's got the slipstream. Joni Hagner going to go defensive on driver's left side of the racetrack. They're wheel to wheel into the brake zone. Can Lundberg fight tough around the outside? Hagner puts the foot down, accelerates out of the corner.
Could not hold it round the outside, and Jacob Reed is 4 seconds behind these drivers. Doug Cloud losing that position, and Mickey Friesen that he just got as well. So now we look at other positions. We look down at the hurry down. Turn 8's not usually an overtake. We keep our eyes onto Doug Cloud. It's just not a lot you can do there to turn 5. Mickey had the aggression. There is Jack Wells. Jack Wells still battling Valenteus. Hello. This is the battle we weren't looking at for a moment. And Jack's got a better run coming out of turn 7. Down into turn 8 he goes. And he's still looking for some moves. And they're going to come back into the traffic at the moment. Is there anything for Jack? No. Has to hold up. You can see that Reed is not waiting. In fact, where is Jacob Reed? Jacob Reed just got past all the GTO traffic. It's going to be a last overtake chance for the GTOs. We're still keeping our eyes on Jack Wells. I've got my eyes on the GTOs. Nothing changes for the GTOs. That's interesting. Jacob Reed will just try and hold Cal Young, bumping around. Noel Lundberg holds on to it. Cal Young almost losing his position. He's going to be side by side with Noel Lundberg going up the Bill Mitchell bend. And this could be good because the inside will belong to Johan Van Hicks. He's gone around the outside one more time into turn 13. He will hold that P13. It will be a drag to the line. Jacob Reed takes your victory for the GTP. We'll see the GTOs. Is there a last hoo-ha here? A small bit of slipstream is not enough for Cal Young. It will finish Hagner, Lundberg, Van Hicks, and behind, Valenteus just holds on Jack Wells.
It was Jacob Reed that was able to give Joni Hagner that little bit of breathing room on the back straightaway, so that way he didn't have to worry about going into the brake zone and being defensive. Cal Young threw everything that he had at it around the outside, and Van Hicks just with a terrific job of racecraft to steal away the podium from that number 6 car. Is looks like Andrea Schuster here right on the back of Remco Snell. This is a fight for the top 10, but it looks like the number 32 car, the drag race up the line, looks like he's going to maintain it. Andreas Schuster, though, uses the draft, uses a little bit of side draft. Does he actually make it to the line? I'm not sure if he actually got scored in 10th place. It shows on my screen, Andreas Schuster, 10th, 3/1000ths of a second.
3/1000ths there for Andreas Schuster. That's fantastic for Schuster. Great little drive. I was also looking. The gap between Noah Lundberg and Cao Young was 0.056. So just a little bit down. I thought Schuster may have just lost it there, but managed to hold on. Fabio Dam will come home in 7th. Great drive for Fabio today. Hamilton Barrera Ruiz as well will get that P8 as he will just come by. And I just believe we're just counting them all back in. Just a couple more to come in. But what a race that was. And you've got to give it up to Jacob Reed. I'm not sure if he did actually get the fastest lap of the race. But going to be very interesting to see what happens there. So let's go to those standings. And as I was saying, it was Jacob Reed who finished. Lights to flag. It was victory for Jacob Reed, and Valenteus, the final number was +19. If anyone's having their own little to themselves sweepstakes, Jack Wells will finish in 3rd, and Christopher Ledgerjack, even with that black flag, will be in 4th. Henning Swebek will be 5th. Brendan Lim will be 6th. Fabio Darm 7th. Up 6 places to Hamilton Barrera Ruiz in 8th. Last man on the lead lap with Dylan Freckleton 9th. Lars Olsen gets that top 10. He finishes in 10th. And then that means up 11 places to 11th, Antonio Alvarez. And then up 12 places to 12th, it's Lance Simon. Also a lap down, Emilio Dicciari in 13th. Andre Felipe Diaz, last man, 1 lap down in 14th. And then Carlos Peralta had to get some repairs done, will be 2 laps down in 15th. Gabri Martinez, I think, had a drive-through for incident points, will come home in 16th. Andrew Petty retired early, and now we come to the retirees. He finished 17th. Fernando Serrato was 18th. Dunya Durgamici, I apologize for that name pronunciation. I will do better. In 19th, Nico Alaretz will be in 20th. And the last 4 of those GTP retirees, Jason Keddy, Diego Mastretta, Fausto Burgomeister, and David Ricciardi. Now, talking about a man who finished where he started in the lead, it's Joni Hagner in the GTOs. Not really lights to flag like Jacob Reed, but he comes home ahead of Noah Lundberg with a fantastic pit strategy there. Johan Van Hicht will be in 3rd, and Cao Young will take that 4th place, with Mickey Friesen up 2 into 5th. Doug Klaus started 6th and will finish in 6th, and Josh Brain will be 7th. Timothy Reed 8th. Roman Bello up 6th to 9th, and Andreas Schuster, again, he started 10th. He finishes 10th. Which leads us to Remco Snell in 11th position. Ian Haycox will be in 12th. Theo Charret tried to do a recovery drive, but down 11 places into 13th. And then Brandon White will be 14th. Yuri Wickstrom will take that 15th. Henry Viramaki will be 16th. Last man on the lead lap. Richard Hyman will be the first man 1 lap down. And then drivers more than a few laps down. Sam Gogard in 18th. Stephanie Leslie will be in 19th. Forban Pollock, retiree at 20th. And then our last 4 retirees. Jack David Spickett, 21st. Martin Krajcik, 22nd. Aitor Sintez Galindo, 23rd. Ludo Charpentelia will be 24th. Well, I think there's only one way to start, really. We've got one of the winners waiting to come and have a chat. I think it's only fair that we get on board and, well, I say get on board. Let's get down to the pit lane and talk to Joni Hagner after his fantastic victory. And Joni Hagner, I've got to say, the pit strategy for you today paid off. Did you expect the undercut to be so strong today?
It can work if you're very fast. I was like 3 seconds faster than the others between the stops, but it was not enough. I should be like 4 seconds, so I could can cut the draft.
I mean, you can be a perfectionist, but at the end of the day, a win's a win. It was a good win there because we were expecting it to be a little bit of a draft train. And were you expecting it to be like that, especially with Cal taking an early lead for all of you? Did you just let that happen and then just look at that pit strategy to just go full beans when you pitted, or were you happy enough to play that passive game at the start?
Well, I was kinda happy, but I didn't want to lead, and we were going like 2 seconds off pace, so it was like clutching in the half of the straight and, causing mayhem. But it is what it is, and then I made my decisions when I saw the Nissans coming and started to push, and there was some mayhem again. But then I made my decision to pit early and send it.
A decision that worked out very well for you, and this is the track that the whole of the great Glacier boys love. What is it about Road America that just makes not just you but everyone come out and enjoy it? Because we talk about it so much. This is such a favorite for the IMSA Vintage drivers.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's my third most driven track, and been here like always. It's so easy to come here, and because I know the tracks inside and out. Last 2 tracks were very new for me, and I haven't raced them at all, and I think it showed on my pace.
Well, next week it's Barcelona. It's a track that's a Marmite track for some drivers. You love it or hate it. Your thoughts about Barcelona for next week?
I want to skip it, but I can't.
You know what? If I was in your shoes, I would love to skip it as well. I do not blame you. Yoni, before we let you go, you are the winner today for the GTOs. It's only fair to give you a few moments for shout-outs.
Hey, I did.
Okay. There we go. Yeah, the quickest shout-outs ever. Yoni Hagner finishing our champion, our winner today in the GTOs once again. And I think we've also now got Jack Wells waiting for us as well. I'm just going to run over to Jack's pit box here, the digital pit box. And Jack, that was a very tense battle out there at the end. Are you paying attention for all that time for a certain Andres Valenteus?
Yeah, I saw him closing the gap lap by lap, and the lap times getting told to me over the comms with the spotter. So I was a bit intimidated when he got to me. I was really close on the fuel numbers at the end of the race. I slightly underfueled in the pit stop. A bit silly of me, but so I didn't have everything to fight him. Not that I didn't. I thought I could hold him behind, honestly. Anyway, but I'm happy with the podium.
I mean, I must be honest, for a moment there, we thought you may have had a shot there, and we did notice the underfueling. But with such a bigger field out here today, and this is probably one of the biggest Road America hour-long races we've seen out here, did the traffic help you to just get that fuel number down to where you need it? Because 48 cars around here, we don't usually see that. Usually this track usually splits, and we usually get about 35, 38 drivers. So a bit of a difference out there for traffic.
Yeah, it definitely helped. You can use the traffic that's coming up in front of you to kind of see if you're going to catch them on the entry or mid corner, and then lift to save some fuel. Obviously that saves time in the pit stop when you're doing that. So I was keeping that in mind the whole first half of the race, and then as I saw I was short as we came to the end, I was trying to do that even towards the end, obviously. The traffic definitely helped me more than Jacob and Audris out there, definitely, today. So usually I find it's the other way around, but I think I got the better hand of it. Obviously, both of them beat me still anyway. So, but I think that's just on the raw pace they had. There was 5 or 6 tenths every lap that I couldn't find the whole day. So
couldn't find it, but got the P3. And I know it's the halfway stage. Let's talk about the championship, because Pepe was nowhere to be seen. Gabri had an issue. You finished ahead of Christoph. This has to be really good, because I think the top 2 are probably out of the picture now. But that P3 still looks like a very interesting battle, and this result's going to go a long way for that for you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Me and Christoph have really been right on each other's pace and the same strategies and everything all season. In the lead up to this race this week, we were battling each other every race that we had. So looking forward to that for the rest of the season. I think, like you say, that Audrius and Jacob are definitely on a different level, and I'm definitely fine with that. It's not as exciting to race for P3, but it's definitely nice to have a battle in these races, to think about the championship as well as just trying to get a one-off race result.
Well, we don't like saying the best of the rest. It's still a P3 out there today, Jack, and it's been a P3 that you've fought well hard for, and it even looked like a P2 for the moment. So congratulations on that podium. We look forward to see you next time out, hopefully at Barcelona.
Yep, certainly. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you, Jack, as well for that. And I think we've got time for just one more because we were looking for a really good race in the GTOs. And unfortunately for this man, for Theo Charret, it just didn't happen. And Theo, talk us through what happened because it looked so unfortunate for you.
Well, I got to talk a bit with Brendan on the Discord, and yeah, from his words, he misjudged how much I would need to slow down for that corner. So even though I noticed he was going to hit me, I tried to avoid that, but yeah, that still wasn't enough.
Yeah, Canada corner is such a tough corner. If in any time, and for multiclass especially here, it's a really tough corner. Talk us through what it's like being that slow car when you've got these prototypes going by around Road America, because they can brake so much later and to carry more speed, but you can get up to speed faster. It's really tough out there, is it not, in the GTOs for traffic?
It can be, but I quite like it because even though I don't like spicy food, I like spicy races. And yeah, so having the tension to look everywhere around me and especially in my mirror to guess what the GTPs behind me will do, it's quite entertaining to do. Even though I would prefer not to have to deal with that, but yeah, that's the race, and I just hope my luck will turn around for next season at least.
Yeah, we've got to give a fingers crossed there, for it's not been the season for you to start this, but second half of the season starts next week. It's Barcelona. What are your thoughts going into that? Because like I was saying to Yoni Hagner, it's a Marmite track. You either love it or you hate it.
For this track, usually I find it pretty boring because all the corners are very smooth and very wide and very... the track also is very smooth, but for the GTO, it's a perfect track because that car needs a lot of smooth inputs and trajectories. So I think that this track will suit well the car, and also as it's very wide, most of the time I won't have to worry that much about traffic.
Well, I'm not going to say clip it and foreshadow. I'm going to hope that you keep a clean car next week, Theo. Not the way we wanted to see you today. We were looking for a really interesting battle, but commiserations on a P13. But we do look forward to see you next week at Barcelona.
Yeah, thank you. See you there.
Theo Charret there, who finishes in 13th. The unlucky for some and unlucky for that mangled car. That's so unfortunate for him today. That's going to be it, though, for us today here at Road America. You can take your cheese hats off right now. We're out of Wisconsin now. We're going to give a shout out to Joey Atterbury, who's had to dip very quickly. And, of course, Daniel Costello. And, of course, Dougie Beard. And we all look very dapper on that, if I say an English word. But if you do like what you see, don't forget to give a like and a thumbs up. We do have the Sim Racers Republic still going on, but this is Barcelona, and a key thing for you Europeans, the clocks go back tonight. So don't forget that it's going to be an hour earlier next week. So it will be at 1700 UTC. So that's just one to keep an eye out for. And as I was saying, more races still going on. The Sim Racers Republic is on right now, but we've got the Majors Series happening tomorrow at Bathurst with the Bathurst 500. And then the Lotus 79s go to Gilles Villeneuve. Remember, like I said, clocks go back tonight. That's going to be an hour early for that race. MX5 United will be in the week on Tuesday. And then Thursday, we go back to the Skip Barbers around the legendary Laguna Seca. But it is Barcelona for us, as you just saw next weekend. Once again, Jacob Reed takes more away from Valenteus. And you've got to feel this is shaping up to be one of the closest GTP races in years. Yes, years. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, race hard, race clean, and we will see you on the track.
is iRacing.